Okay, hi everybody. Oh, that light is really bright. So my name's Jenny. As I was introduced, I'm a Research Engagement Officer with HEANet. HEANet is Ireland's National Research and Engagement Network. So we're essentially the Irish equivalent of JISC in the UK. And I've been involved with Sonraì from the very beginning. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Sonraì, it's the Irish Data Stewardship Network. Sonraì is the Irish word for data. When we were looking for a name, we couldn't come up with an acronym that we liked. So we decided to really stamp our Irishness on it by using the name Sonraì. So we came out of, I'm going to give a little bit of background, the Ireland's National Open Research Forum, or NORF. NORF was established, I think, around 2017 to work towards developing this National Action Plan for Open Research. A couple of years after that, in 2022, the government published their Impact 2030 strategy. So we're very much making sure that we're aligned with that. The National Action Plan for Open Research, I won't go into too much detail, but it was very much a collaborative effort with the entire community in Ireland. And the action plan itself is divided into 3 different themes. The one, obviously, which is the most interesting for us and the most important, is enabling fair research data and other outputs. There was funding to go along with the launch of the National Action Plan, and this €1.27 million covered 2 rounds of funding calls, which I think, I'm trying to do really quick calculations in my head, around 20 projects were funded out of this. Some of those were focused very much on specific priority actions within the action plan, and then there was 8 which were just open research stimulus projects, where it wasn't specifically targeting a specific action. So Sonraì was funded in 2022. We received 2 years of funding from the National Open Research Forum. This was specifically called out within the National Action Plan, and we are, I suppose, coming good on what we set out to do. So our mission is to foster, enable and advocate for the development of research data stewardship and data stewards nationally. We have very similar aims to CaSDaR, so I think there's really going to be a huge amount of overlap. We would like to see better recognition of data stewards in Ireland. In some ways, I feel like we're kind of behind the curve in terms of seeing these roles and kind of naming these roles as well. We want to support the data stewards who are doing the role already. We want to see more professionalisation. So I was really interested to see the question about whether people see a future career path for themselves and progression. And we also want to provide an element of training as well for the data stewards who are in place at the moment. So this was initially a 2-year project, which ended at the end of 2024, at the end of last year. So within the project, we developed a visual identity and logo. It was great to be able to have a little bit of money to actually get somebody to come in and work with us on that branding. I think it's really important. Strong branding really speaks an awful lot. We also set up a website and social media, and then we did a series of roadshows across different higher education institutions in Ireland. In some ways, there's a benefit to working in Ireland. It's a much smaller community. So, we have just about double digits numbers of universities. I personally know somebody who works in every single one of them because it's a much smaller community. But we went out to all of the different institutions. We did roadshows to tell them about the work that we wanted to do. We wanted to hear back from people who were maybe doing data stewardship but didn't realise that they were doing it. We also did a series of interviews and have 2 publications that have come out of that, which I'm going to talk a little bit more about. And then we did a national conference in June of 2024. Which was a really, really good fun day. 2 days actually in Cork, in Ireland, bringing together people from the Irish Data Stewardship community, but also looking internationally as well. And then we also worked with the Digital Repository of Ireland on their legacy data pilot. So they made funding available to researchers who had legacy data that they wanted to be able to make available. And they were able to work with data stewards through Sonraì. So one of the things that kind of we kept coming up against again and again, and we kind of borrowed this idea of, am I a data steward, from the research software engineers. So am I a research software engineer? So we were looking at all of the different types of roles that data stewards can do. And I know this has been talked about an awful lot already today. So we came up with a list of kind of questions for people who didn't have even data in their title. But do you often find yourself minding the data? Are you the data person in your research group? Are you the person who implements the data processes? Do you spend a lot of time on data, metadata, handling and wrangling? Do you administer or provide support for data infrastructures? Have you reviewed, written or implemented a data management plan? Do you provide research data management support, training or implementation as a central service? So recognising that a lot of us were, I was initially based in a library. So recognising that a lot of it is central support and then, more embedded as well. Are you tasked with data curation, preservation or verification? Or are you working on policy within your institution as well? And recognising that all of these different aspects of, if you say yes to even one of these, you could be a data steward. So as I said, we produced 2 different reports. One of them was the professionalisation of research data stewardship in Ireland, which came up with a couple of recommendations around advocacy, building partnerships, adopting and adapting competency frameworks that were discussed already today, engaging with policy bodies and providing model job descriptions. So I really liked when I heard you guys talking about developing a kind of a repository of these types of things for the community. I think that's something that we need to be looking at as well. We also had a look at data stewardship training, looking at the current landscape and insights from the community. So we absolutely know that there's insufficient numbers of data stewards to meet the national demand, and training is fragmented, to be polite. Training needs encompass 2 cohorts, so we very much have data stewards, but then also upskilling the wider research community in data stewardship. So advocating for embedded data stewardship where possible, but recognising that researchers are sometimes going to need to take on an element of this work themselves, depending on how big the research group or research project is, and making sure that they have what they need as well. So this was really, really useful in us kind of coming up with where we saw the future of Sonraì. So once the project ended, we had to look to the future to see where we were going to be going from here. How could we sustainably grow and not just maintain the network, but actually grow it into the future with no money? So we set up a committee. So we have a committee which is partly comprised of original project partners, but we also brought in some fresh blood as well, which was great. And we have a steering group which is involved with people across the Irish community, but also internationally as well. So we felt it was important to make sure that we were making those connections with what's happening on the wider European landscape as well. Then rather than having working groups or special interest groups, we decided to go with task and finish groups. And these would be time-bound groups that would come together to work on a specific topic or a specific problem, and then could be disbanded. We will have 2 members of the committee on any of these task and finish groups, but we recognise that particularly in Ireland, and I'm sure it's the same here, but it's the same people again and again who are being asked to do this work on a voluntary basis. So come and be on our committee. I know you're already on 10 other committees, but we need you as well. And, people are really pulled in so many different directions. So by going with the task and finish model, we can bring in the expertise that we need for specific tasks or ideas or outcomes, and then they can go back to their day job. They can either stick with us for the next one, or they can just go, do you know what, I'm really interested in what you're doing there. I just want to be involved for a short amount of time. We are developing a data stewardship micro-credential, and this is part of our sustainability plan. So this is it's launching in February 2026, which is only slightly terrifying, but that's when the micro-credentials in UCC, where it's accredited, are starting. It's accredited through the UCC College of Humanities and it's Humanities, Arts and Celtic Studies, I think is the full title. So we're looking at, just in this initial round, Introduction to Data Stewardship. But this will allow us to bring in some level of income as well, because it's a paid-for course. It'll be worth 5 credits. So if a PhD student has a credit requirement that they need, they'll be able to put it towards that as well. But we're also talking with the funders to ensure that this is an allowable cost on grant applications. So where relevant, researchers will be able to access the training that they need. And then any money that we make off of that, we can then bring back into the community, allowing us to develop more training events. We're also looking at launching a data champion program. We have a target of having 3 data champions within the first year. They will have a profile on our website. We're going to ask them to write a little blog post for us as well and take part in one event. And I suppose really the most difficult part of this for us is trying to help people, trying to give back to those people who are giving of their time. So we have a website, we're on LinkedIn, we have a mailing list as well. The care principles came up during the last session. Because we have no money at the moment, we can't do in-person events, so we have decided to do a series of what we're calling masterclasses. And our first masterclass was on the care principles for Indigenous data. And because we have an Indigenous community in Ireland, the Irish Travellers, we felt that this was a really good place to start, and it was a really amazing event. I absolutely loved every minute of it. You can find the recordings on our website, so if people are interested in learning more about the care principles, go ahead and have a look at those. Thank you very much.